al-hadath al-akbar. Al-hadath al-akbar is basically being in a state of minor impurity.
You said akbar.
Oh, I said, oh, sorry, asghar, my bad. Nawaqid al-wudu. So the nullifiers of wudu. So you need to understand what is actually nullifiers. Anything that comes out of the two exits is a nullifier of wudu. Al-kharij al-nadas al-kathir min ghayri sabilain. So anything that, any sort of impurity that comes, let's say, from your body, other than the two exits. What is the meaning of, let's say, when you bleed, sometimes you bleed pus that comes out of your body, sometimes it's pus. So that is considered, if it's a lot, al-kathir, it would be considered a nullifier. Even when you bleed, if you bleed a lot, is a nullifier wudu. So blood is considered impure. In general, pus also is considered impure. So if you have a lot of it, it's a nullifier of wudu. So this is one. The other one is zawal al-aql. When you lose your senses, illa yasir naw min qa'im wa qa'id. Have you seen this for Jum'ah? I mean, I've seen this a lot. The people basically do this. This is okay, it's fine. This is something small. Yasir is overlooked. But when someone starts snoring, it's a nullifier wudu. At that point, you know his person is, at least he doesn't know what's actually happening around him. Sometimes people are even closing their eyes, but if you ask him what he heard in the khutbah, he will even tell you what he heard. He's aware of his surroundings, but maybe his eyes are closed. So that's why when they say yasir, there's no problem. But anytime you're deep asleep, you have to go do wudu again. So renewal of wudu is aklu lahm al-juzur. This is purely a Hanbali position. I'll just mention this. There's two narrations. La wudu'a mimma massat an-nar. There is no wudu for something that touches the fire. And there's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ had told for them whoever ate the meat of the camel to do wudu. So there's two narrations. So anybody, there's questions, there's a concept of nasikh and mansukh ibn al-hadith, i.e. abrogation. The Hanbalis took the position, no, it's not abrogated. We do not know when these two hadith were revealed, and we're not even sure what was the meaning. So this ikhtilaf, the Hanbalis took a position, anytime you eat camel meat, this is why you have this, you have to go renew your wudu. The others took the other hadith, that is, as long as it is cooked, and this is an abrogated, the hadith that is abrogating the previous hadith. So they said, no, camel meat is not an nawaqid of wudu, that is, it is not a nullifier of wudu. This is why the ikhtilaf is between the Hanbalis and the non-Hanbalis.
What is cooked?
So let's say the position for the others is like, generally they consider the hadith abrogated, generally. The other one is, they say that if it is cooked itself, they don't consider, because they say la wudu, there is no wudu if it is, basically mimma masatina, from what has touched the fire, which if it is cooked, they don't consider this to be a nullifier of wudu itself.
When is the case that it is not cooked?
I mean, I think generally we cook.
Right.
So that's why they, yeah, fruits, I guess, yeah. With meat,
This is not specific to the meat.
This is referring to camel meat. I mean, the others, they don't consider, this is specifically for camel itself. The others you can eat, no problem.
I have heard like fish. There are certain fish that they do something to it that you don't have to cook, but they put something on it and it's eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, but fish, there is no, all the madhab except like some of the Hanaf on specific sea creatures, they make some exceptions. But generally, other than crocodile, let's say something that hunts, that's where they will tell you, no, this is not something you can eat. But let's say general fish, or I don't want to go into crab, but but anything that generally you can think of in terms of fishes, there are people. Okay. I'll mention this part, these two. Mashul farj, touching the private, so touching either the front or the back. So i.e. you have to touch the inside of your back or the front part. So the Hanaf don't consider this, actually the Hanafis don't consider this. The Hanbalis are more strict on this, i.e. why is because there is a narration, the Hanafis considered more strong, that if you touch your private, there is a hadith that it is only part of your body, and they consider this more strong. The others that take the position that there's the other narration, the Hanafis reject that hadith. They say it is not a strong hadith. So that's why the ikhtilaf in terms of when you touch your private, especially the front, they consider that a nullifier of wudu. So this ikhtilaf is more on like which they accept or which they don't accept. Hanaf don't consider the first hadith. Obviously, in our day and time, Sheikh Albani also took the position that it is only a part of your body. But this is where the ikhtilaf is. The Hanbalis, if you, let's say, since this is a Hanbali class, that would be considered a nullifier of wudu. The Hanafis are a little bit more lenient on this position.
The other hadiths that do not
Accept it. They don't consider this a strong hadith. That's why the ikhtilaf is there. They don't consider this a strong hadith. I mean, so I guess they consider it da'if if you want to call it. But I have to check what is your official position. That's why the ikhtilaf is. They acknowledge the hadith itself, the narration is there. But sometimes the ikhtilaf, sometimes maybe do we consider this an authentic hadith or not authentic hadith? That's where the ikhtilaf is. Mas'hu rajl.
It's bil yad, not
Yeah, bil yad.
yes, that's
So, and not the front part also. There's a little bit detail on that one, but for now, let's say front part of your hands. Mas'hu rajul bi shahwa. So let's say if a man is touching another, obviously the other gender with shahwa, with desire, the Shafi'is are the most strictest. The Hanbalis, the Shafi'is, if you touch, then your wudu is nullified. The Hanbalis, if you touch with desire, that's when your wudu is nullified. The Hanaf are the most lenient, unless and until some liquid is obviously existed from your body, only then it would be considered a nullifier of wudu. So the Hanbalis, if you touch with desire, it's a nullifier of wudu. The Shafi'is are the most strictest. I had a friend of mine who studied Shafi'i fiqh. He was telling me it's very difficult to follow his opinion, but especially if you're doing Umrah or Hajj, I don't know what the position at that point. I don't know how practical it might be to follow that position. And the last part, غسل الميت ينقض به وضوء الغسل فقط. So the one who's actually he doesn't have to do ghusl, but it would be considered a nullifier for he has to do wudu again. And ghusl is recommended in this case. Ridda is somebody who leaves Islam, and obviously at that point he doesn't have wudu. Salah ma yuhramu al-muhdith. So what is prohibited when somebody is in a state of minor impurity? As-salah, you can do salah. At-tawaf. So anybody, obviously anybody who's done Hajj and Umrah, wudu is a condition for you to do tawaf. All the other things, you can do it, but tawaf, you can't do it. And mash al-mushaf, touching the mushaf in a state of minor impurity, this is a Hanbali position. Even the Hanaf follows this position. You're not supposed to touch the mushaf. Even I was looking at the other position when you're in a state of hayd, yani your cycle, you can touch the mushaf. So the ones who actually allow it, they will tell you use let's say interpretation. I mean tafsir book, because tafsir books also have ayat, but the kalam of the people are more. The one who's writing the tafsir, his kalam is more. That's when they will say, okay, in this case, use like an English translation or a tafsir, because there's words of man is way more than the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the mushaf in and of itself, that's where a lot of the madhahib are very, very strict when it comes to touching the mushaf, especially in a state of, let's say, hayd, or in a state of minor impurity. Also, they're strict on this, even reciting the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what this is. The ones who allow leniency, they will tell you, ask them to use like a tafsir book or a English translation. This is where some of the scholars will take a lenient approach to, because it's going to be very hard for somebody to, let's say if somebody's a Quran teacher, it's going to be extremely difficult. So in this case, they will ask somebody to use, let's say, a translation where, like, obviously there's Arabic, but they will also have lots of, there's the kalam of the people are more than the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the traditional position that you're not supposed to touch the mushaf.
No exceptions. Gloves.
Hmm?
Gloves. I've seen someone say
yes, yes. Dr. Hatim's position is that is also Dr. Hatim's position, to wear gloves and touch the mushaf. That is one of the exceptions also they give you. Phones, another one, they tell you just use a phone nowadays.
Let's say, for example, you're doing da'wah in like the Arab country that's like some Christians, some Muslims, and you're doing da'wah, and like one of them wants a mushaf to like go and read it, you can't give it.
No, I mean then you'll never give a mushaf.
Okay, that's not even an exception.
Yeah, those you're
Yeah,
talking about like
these
scenarios, but we're talking about in general. Yeah.
So what then happens, position of use the glove? So that means like use cloth, use something.
Yeah, don't touch it directly.
That-
Because this was specifically asked during one of the classes, and he said, you know, there's workarounds. Wear something in your hand so you don't touch it directly or anything of that sort.
This is based on the ayah, right?
Yeah, وَلَا تَمَسُّونَ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ. Then none of them should touch it except the ones who are pure. The ones who allow it, they say this is referring to the malaika.
That's right.
Yes, the ones who do not take that position say this is referring to the malaika and not referring to, let's say, humans. But the ones who say no, it has to be the ones who are actually, the traditional positions are pretty strict on this. The ones who allow it, even among the classical opinions, they will say this was referring to the malaika and not referring to humans. That's where the ikhtilaf of the ayah itself. You will find this in any of the tafsir books.